that prevent unwanted tracking. The two women say that their former partners planted the trackers in their cars and children's clothes without their knowledge.
Well, Maisie Relph knows all too well the dangers of technology in stalking cases. When she was 17, she was stalked by her 53-year-old driving instructor, Graham Manzi, who spent hundreds of pounds paying dark web fraudsters to hack her social accounts. She joins us now. Good morning. So tell us a little bit, before we get on to the Apple connection, about what happened to you and how you dealt with it.
So I was stalked by my 53-year-old driving instructor from July 2020 sort of onwards was when I started learning with him till April. And all sort of started off absolutely fine. We had quite a big gap with lessons because of the lockdowns. And then things just in the car started to feel sort of slightly odd. There was nothing major. But then sort of in July 2021, he wrote love letters to me, spent £65 worth of gifts. And then I moved to York University and he joined my WhatsApp halls of residence on the first week. And at that point, we reported it to the police. And it was then found out it was so much worse than we thought. As you say, he'd paid dark web hackers to hack my social media accounts. He'd posed as a York University student. And then most recently, after going to court, he broke a restraining order by turning up at my uni accommodation with a knife 9 days after we went to sentencing.
My goodness me. And what happened then? What was the next step in the story?
So we went back to court. So I was supported by my 10 flatmates, who obviously were sort of as traumatised as I was.
Yeah.
And then now he's currently in prison serving a 20-month sentence. But he's getting out at the end of March.
Sounds like that's where he belongs. So how are you feeling about him getting out? It's quite a short sentence comparatively.
I mean, it's a 20-month sentence, but that's halved for good behaviour. And by the time we got to court, he'd already served 4 months. So sort of actually it's only 6. And as I said, he gets out at the end of March. So obviously it's terrifying. And I'm already thinking, you know, what is going to happen? I don't think this is the end.
Maisie, I mean, what a way to live, and so brave of you to come on and talk to us about it. So we really do appreciate that. And I know this, people close to me have gone through this, and we've had Elio Costello on the channel as well, has been a victim of this. It's a huge problem. What's your take on the AirTag story? Do you think that these kinds of perpetrators are taking advantage of the kinds of technology that are evolving at the moment to try and pursue their victims?
Yeah, I think certainly. I think, you know, with the Apple AirTags, it just is so easy. It's almost too easy. And I think, you know, if that had been me and he'd had an Apple AirTag on me, that would have made my situation 100 times worse than it already was.
Yeah, because when you look at these cases, quite often it's former partners placing the AirTags under the mats in a car or even like gluing them underneath number plates. So oftentimes these things come out. It was a way of tracking your keys or tracking your luggage at an airport. A good technology so often, though, finds a more sinister usage, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Certainly. I think it's just, it makes it too easy for people. I mean, you know, my stalker paid dark web hackers to hack 17-year-old social media accounts. I mean, it makes you think, you know, it's just, that takes probably quite a lot of skill, but this is just, you know, £40 in the Apple shop.
I suppose the problem in all of this is if you do stop, you know, developments in technology because of a minority of users taking advantage of them, then that's a shame for everybody else, isn't it? I mean, a lot of people might see the advantages perhaps to tracking their kids on their way home from school or, as you say, losing important pieces of kit. I mean, there are advantages to these things. What is the solution in all of this? I mean, how do we regulate this so that it doesn't affect people's lives in similar situations to you, but yet the rest of us can enjoy the benefits?
Yeah, I mean, it's such, because you don't want the majority to lose out because of the minority. And as you say, it's such an important piece of kit. But obviously something needs to be done to protect victims of stalking because it just makes it too easy for people.
And part of the problem with this is when you read into these cases, you know, so often women have been stalked by their partners for so long without even knowing about it, because these things are small, they're about the size of a 10p piece, right? And they're easily obscured. I guess you can check your car as best you can, but it's a needle in a haystack job.
What has your experience been of the court system? Because, again, we hear mixed reviews from women about the process, often having, you know, some women are able to go, most women are able to go behind a screen, but a dear friend of mine was going through security into the courthouse, and it was the same entrance to the court as everybody else, and she realised her stalker was stood behind her. She could feel his breath on the back of her neck. So whilst there are certain mitigations in place, it wasn't enough for her to feel safe during the whole process.
No, I mean, I was classed as a vulnerable witness, I think probably because of the age gap, and I am absolutely petrified of him now. So I was lucky that I could go through a separate entrance, but there was one time we nearly bumped into him, but sort of witness care and things like that were very good at trying to make sure, you know, that we were separated. Most recently, he was on a video link from prison because he'd been held on remand. So at least that time, I only had to see him on video. And none of the times he's been able to see me because obviously they don't want to fuel the obsession.
Did you write a witness impact statement?
Yeah,
and read it out in court?
Yeah, I did.
And do you feel like, you know, was that cathartic as a process?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you kind of felt quite powerful and you thought, you know, you need to get your point across of how much this has affected you. And it was sort of good to write it down and for him to hear, I mean, my stalker's totally irrational and totally unremorseful. So I think that obviously, you know, when he's shaking his head, it's a bit of a kick in the teeth. But ultimately, it did give something, I guess, reading it out myself.